Well, I want to put out a little educational video on George Soros. Actually, some of the aspects you might be surprised. He's got a positive side. I mean, every dark cloud has a silver lining. If you don't like George Soros, um, yeah, I'm not a fan of George Soros, but I can see he's got one fatal flaw, and I'm going to get into that. And this one little phrase from him really sums up his entire problem, man. This is my cat Goldie, and has nothing to do with the video. I just kind of present him over here. Um, just like anything, you know, you can't, I could take care of a cat, right? I mean, as a person, as a human, I could take care of a cat. Humans like being like thinking they're a Masonic figure and they're going to take care of everybody. That's a whole other story, And you get into that type of things, you're actually restricting people's freedoms, and that really goes against the actual founding Constitution of the United States, and actually the first Constitution of the world, which is the Constitution of Virginia. Everybody wants the pursuit of their own happiness, their own life. So when you start interfering with other people's lives, you're really ruining things. It's not the same as me me taking care of my kitty cats or something. Just to give you an example. It's not the same thing. I mean, yeah, maybe it's, well, I don't know, but here right here in this pink highlighted, my main concern is with the world order. This is George Soros's fatal flaw. Now, we have a guardian angel watching over George Soros. His name is Robert Edward Lee. He's up there, the benevolent Robert E. Lee, and he's showing George, think Confederate, which is limited government, which is laissez-faire capitalism and economics and individual rights and states' rights. George has got some aspects, like I said, with the marijuana legalization. He's okay with that. I mean, I don't smoke any weed or anything, fine, but I'm 100% pro. Anybody should be able to smoke weed, grow weed, or whatever the hell it is. I know it's not the best thing in the world to do, but it's a hell of a lot better than drinking. And there's a lot of medicinal aspects to any kind of, plants are medicinal. You can abuse anything. I mean, you could buy oil-based paint from a paint store. If you're going to abuse yourself, or whatever, fine. There's nothing anybody can do. I mean, you could buy glue or something. But weed is definitely not in that category. It's not harmful. With George, he's okay going for that. I mean, Nelson Rockefeller was a bad guy compared to George. Nelson Rockefeller, as New York governor, well, he made possessing weed, marijuana, such a bad crime that it was like on par with something a violent criminal would do. And actually, the New York City police were even against Nelson Rockefeller making weed, subject to such harsh penalties. So, it's like whatever. So now with George, he's really trying to control the world. Now, if you look back during the times of the southern plantations, they were trying to control the lives of blacks, or mainly blacks, right? Most of the blacks with what they called good stewardship. But to tell you the truth, what George is doing is actually far more extreme than anything the plantation owners were doing. And at the same time, George is actually seems to hate the South. I would love to talk to this guy, because I get some of his billions over to recreating the Confederate monuments again, because they pretty much go along with George's laissez-faire vision of the world. Like, everybody does their own thing. Freedom from too much authority, freedom of expression. The Confederates actually, I think the good stewardship actually was practiced pretty much in the South, in reality, far more than, you would see somebody phony talking billionaire philanthropists talk to say today. You wouldn't want to work for Jeff Bezos, I can tell you that right now today. But if back during that time, they weren't growing cotton, they were growing marijuana, it probably wouldn't have been such a bad life, because everybody'd be getting high or everybody be feeling good or something. But with George, he's got another aspect besides, the marijuana, being pro-marijuana legalization and being against, the draconian laws against it. Like I said, his fatal flaw in one aspect is, my main concern is with the world order. And he thinks he's a Masonic figure. Like he's just going to fix everything. That's called micromanaging too much. You can't do that. You just got to let go. And, he's actually got to get pro-Confederate too. But let me get along with some of the stuff that George says. And this is going to be about the tech industry, particularly Facebook and Google. This is all from George. It was George Soros at Davos, Switzerland, January 25th of 2018. This year, actually, right? So we're in October. This is only 10 months ago. The distinguishing feature, this is per George. You will not disagree with this. Giorgio's got this part right. He's got a couple things, because, on the conservative side, they'll say, yeah, he's a left wing, he funds Move On, he funds open borders. Okay, I understand that. I'm against that stuff, but you know what? Let's get down to the nuts and bolts. And he said, really what it is he thinks he's going to fix the world. That's just leave it alone. Leave it alone. Let the world screw up or do whatever it is on himself. He's sort of like playing mother hen with the world, leave him alone. Anyway, but he's got some good ideas, concepts about problems with the internet. And he goes on to say the distinguishing feature of internet platform companies is that they are networks and they enjoy rising marginal returns that accounts for their phenomenal growth. The network effect is truly unprecedented and transformational, but it is also unsustainable. Why? Because there's only so many people in the world. It took Facebook 8.5 years to reach 1 billion users and half that time to reach the 2nd billion. At that rate, Facebook will run out of people in less than 3 years. Facebook's already going. I hate Facebook. God. But I mean, if you got like a small business and you want to have like a little page out there with your business, fine, that's great. It's good for that. Otherwise, what the hell does Facebook have? Anyway, Facebook and Google effectively control over half of all internet advertising revenue. That's how they make their money. Which, the YouTube, Google, whatever. Google bought YouTube, So maintain their dominance, they need to expand their networks and increase their share of users' attention. Which I tend to watch more stuff on YouTube. I'll watch stuff on YouTube before I'll ever get cable. How bad entertainment is today? I was watching McHale's Navy. I said, I haven't watched that in a long time. That stuff was a lot funnier than I thought, because compared to today, nothing's original today. Anyway, currently, McHale, remember Quint McHale? PT 73. I don't know, it's back in the early 60s. Currently, they do this by providing users with a convenient platform. The more time users spend on a platform, the more valuable they become to the companies. So content providers also contribute to profitability. I'm contributing to profitability, I guess. And they cannot avoid using the platforms. I can't avoid using a platform. I just hope, I dread going to the new creative studio, though. I can tell you that right now. Anyway, 2019, I'm going to be on it for sure. We're all going. The exceptional profitability of these companies is largely a function of them avoiding responsibility for and paying for the content of their platforms. Now, that part I don't like, because then he's sounding a little restrictive there. But then, he goes on, they claim they're merely distributing information. But the fact is they are near monopoly distributors, makes them public utilities, and should be subject them to stringent regulations aimed at preserving competition, innovation, and fair and open universal access. Yeah, I mean, I guess I agree with there, because, it's almost like having two big newspapers or something, and then no other newspapers are allowed to publish because these two big newspapers have all the information, I don't know. These guys, he's got a point there. This is George's words, not mine, okay? The business model of social media companies is based on advertising. Their true customers are the advertisers. Absolutely true. Us, the end users, we're not the customers. We're the ones being sold to, I mean, in effect, if we weren't there, there'd be no advertisers, but, You know what I mean? Who's paying the bills? The advertisers. But gradually, a new business model is emerging based not only on advertising but on selling products and services directly to the users. They exploit the data they control. In other words, you watch this, you watch that, so let's put ads up for that, right? Bundle the services they offered and use discriminatory prices to keep for themselves more of the benefits that otherwise would have to share with consumers, you know. Tech world getting rich. This enhances their profitability even further. Again, this is George Soros' words, not mine, okay? So, I know some Google reviewers are going to look at this. What is this guy saying? Is he criticizing us? George is criticizing you, okay? Anyway, but prevent bundling the services into discriminating pricing, undermining the efficiency of the market economy. Social media companies deceive their users by manipulating their attention and directed it towards their own commercial purposes. Yeah. Anyway, they know how to grab your attention, right? They deliberately engineer addiction to the services they provide. That's true because everybody's got their nose in a cell phone today. This can be harmful, particularly to adolescents. There's a similarity between internet platforms and gambling companies. They're getting you addicted. That's true. See, this guy's not, he's okay in this area. I don't really disagree with this guy, you know? We got to talk to this guy about Robert E. Lee, you know, and stuff. Then we're going to be getting Soros-funded monuments, okay? Casinos have developed techniques to hook gamblers to a point where they gamble all away their money, even money they don't have. It's kind of like it's the same thing with the internet. I'm addicted to the internet. I watched 2 episodes of McHale's Navy. I don't know what the hell that had to do with anything, but I watched it and it was late at night. I was like, what the hell am I watching this for? But it was kind of funny because I was like, God, I haven't seen this I don't remember any of those episodes. I used to watch it like, I don't know, 50 years ago or something. Sometimes something very harmful and it may be irreversible is happening to human attention in our digital age. Not just distraction or addiction. Social media companies are inducing people to give up their autonomy. That I agree with. Holy smokes. Your independence, right? The power to shape people's attention is increasingly concentrated in the hands of a few companies. It takes a real effort to assert and defend what John Stuart Mitchell called the freedom of the mind. People don't really think anymore. They're just brainwashed, right? He's telling it like it is, you know. There is a possibility that once lost, you know, this true freedom of the mind, people who grow up in a digital age will have difficulty regaining it. This will have far-reaching political consequences. People without the freedom of mind can be easily manipulated. You can see that's already the problem, right? I mean, sometimes people are worried about some of the, you know, if they can make, I don't know, something totally nonsensical a big issue inside of no time with the right kind of advertising, you know, the wrappers on Twinkies or something, which I don't eat those things anyway. The danger does not loom only in the future, but also played an important part in the 2016. You don't like Trump, I don't know. 2016 presidential elections. He doesn't like Trump at all, man. I mean, you know, I know Trump isn't like the advertising catchphrases he said in his campaign, but I can't see how Soros would have backed Hillary. God, that lady, talk about somebody mean. Anyway, he should have backed Stormy versus Trump. That would have been a more interesting race. Stormy on a Democratic platform. She probably would have got more votes too. There is also an even more alarming prospect on the horizon. There could be an alliance between authoritarian states and these large data-rich IT monopolies that would bring together nascent systems of corporate surveillance with an already developed system of state-sponsored surveillance. That is already going on. I already called Facebook KGB book for at least since it's been around practically. It's just, you know, it's just a way to spy on people. And that's really what the problem is, even with Google and all that other stuff. I mean, you know, the alphabet agencies are all involved in this stuff. I mean, he says this may well result in a web of total totalitarian control, the likes of which not even Huxley or Orwell could have imagined. And that's, you know, I think it's already there. The countries in which unholy marriages are likely to occur first are Russia and China. The Chinese IT companies in particular are fully equal to the American ones, and they employ the full support and protection of the regime. The government of China is strong enough to protect its national champions, at least within its borders. Now look at this. This is another thing that's already going on. U.S.-based IT monopolies are already tempted, and already doing this though, to compromise themselves in order to gain entrance into the vast and growing markets of China. That's part of like the restrictions on the internet control, because then this content is more, palatable to, the Chinese markets. I don't know. Anyway, it's great. Anyway, the dictatorial leaders in these countries, talking about China, Russia, whatever, they don't be too happy to collaborate. They'll be happy to collaborate with the U.S. leaders, the U.S. IT tech, since it'll help improve their methods of control over their own populations in China and Russia, and expand their power and influence in the United States and the rest of the world. The owners of the platform giants consider themselves the masters of the universe, but in fact they're slaves to preserving their own dominant position. It's only a matter of time before the global dominance of the U.S. IT monopolies is broken. Davos is a good place to announce, Davos, Switzerland, is a good place to announce that their days are numbered. Regulation and taxation will be their undoing. This is according to Soros. I don't know if this is going to happen or not. It's sort of like saying Standard Oil got broken up, but Rockefeller sure didn't go down, There is also a growing recognition of a connection between the dominance of platform monopolies and the rising levels of inequality. I don't understand that, but that's what he said. The concentration of share ownership in the hands of a few private individuals plays some role, but the particular position occupied by the IT giants is even more important. They have achieved monopoly power, but at the same time they are competing against each other. They are also big enough to swallow up startups that could develop into competitors, but the only giants have the resources to invade each other's territories. They are poised to dominate new growth areas, like artificial intelligence is opening up, like driverless cars, like Google driverless. Boy, I don't like that concept. Imagine driverless motorcycles, a driverless Harley. I can't even imagine I don't even like a rubber-mounted engine on a Harley in a frame, God, they got ABS brakes and all this stuff. The impact of innovations on the unemployment depends on government. And he talks about something else here. The European Union, and particularly the Nordic countries, are much more farsighted in their social policies than the United States. They protect the workers, not the jobs. They're willing to pay for retraining or retiring displaced workers. So they're more of a human element. U.S., they're out there trying to get the jobs open, but they're not necessarily directly protecting the workers, the people themselves. That's a good concept. You should be protected. That's why they should have gotten rid of that concept, that new term of human resources, and left it personnel like it used to be. This gives workers in Nordic countries a great sense of security. It makes them more supportive of technological innovations than the workers in the U.S. because they know the technology may replace their job, but it's not going to replace them because they're going to be retrained because the government is there to help protect them, the people. Here it's kind of like some big high-tech giants come along when they find a way to eliminate, all these people's functions because we got robots that can do it with, technology and, self-learning or whatever the hell it is, and adaptation. They don't care about the effect of what happens to the people. But if like in the Nordic countries, if that happened, the concept is the workers are, the peoples are protected themselves, the actual workers. So they're not so much worried about tech advancements because they know they're protected, them as a person. The internet monopoly, see, George is fine with this stuff. I mean, I got no problem with him. He's got to build some Confederate monuments. I said this a few times, but, I'm throwing a plug in there. George, are you listening? The internet monopolies have neither the will nor the inclination to protect society against the consequences of their action. Yeah, it's just about money. That turns him into a menace. And it falls. But you know what? The consequences of, he's talking about the consequences of the internet monopolies. But George, when he makes money, he doesn't worry about the consequences of anything or how he made money. If he breaks the Bank of England or he freaking destroys 40 years of, building up in the economy in Indonesia, and he made, you know what I mean? He does the same thing. So who's he kidding? But anyway, he's like, I don't know. That turns them into a menace. Like, George, you're a menace too. Because you know why? Honestly, like I said, right in a nutshell, right from the beginning. You want to know what's wrong with George? It's right there. I mean, not the fact that he funds this organization. My main concern is the world order. He's like big mother hen sticking his nose in everything. Just stay the hell out. Robert E. Lee is trying to blow some words of wisdom in your ear, and he wants you to look to your right and see that symbol, and then start putting up a lot of those things all along the highways. Quit tearing them down. So anyway, the European Union is a better situation to not have giant platforms of its own. The European Union is a different definition of monopoly power than the United States. U.S. law enforcement primarily is on monopolies created by acquisition. The EU law prohibits the abuse of monopoly power, irrespective of how it's achieved. So, Europe's got a couple things that are, better in some ways. Other things that are worse, though, for sure. Europe has much stronger privacy and data protection laws than America. Moreover, U.S. law has adopted a strange doctrine. It measures harm as an increase in the price paid by customers for services received, and that is almost impossible to prove when most services are provided for free. This leaves out the consideration that the valuable data platform companies collect from their users. In other words, even if a service is free, they're data mining what you like and what your trends are and what you're interested in. They hit you with advertising, and that's who the advertisers are paying their bills. And by the way, this cat in the background, that's Gold Digger the cat. And George, you remember some of those, right? Gold Diggers? Anyway. So, George, listen up. I don't think this guy's all bad. You see, I'm the type of person, I kind of, tell you the truth, my own personal philosophy is right wing and left wing, which is kind of crazy words in a way. They're both very authoritarian. They're both very controlling. Even though, left wing says do whatever you want. They got their own code, And, the right wing is very excessive law and orders, militaristic, whatever, fine. I'm very much laissez-faire, to hell with all this garbage, And actually, a lot of that is the way things are more in the South. A lot of, even though the Northeast makes everything look the other way around and Hollywood does, it's really not how, that's not really, the old school South is very laissez-faire. My philosophy is, just let it be. Let it be. And that's really what George Soros' philosophy should be. He's not thinking about the consequences of his financial moves. Sometimes he's criticizing the tech companies, right? I just told you what he was saying about, Google and YouTube, and I guess it includes YouTube, but Google and Facebook. George Soros is criticizing them for not, looking at the consequences of their actions, but George doesn't look at the consequences of his actions in his financial endeavors either, so what's he saying, So, but he's playing like, he's got he has said that he thinks of himself as a Masonic figure, like a god on this earth, and he's here to change the world, and that's the problem. It's like, why does everything get screwed up? Is when somebody up there on the top tries to micromanage everything. Robert E. Lee was not a micromanager. He's a patriot of Virginia. You know, it's like you need to have a laissez-faire type system. Like people do whatever they, whatever they gravitate to, whatever they do best, that's what they do. You know, you don't dictate to people how it's going to be, and it's like George Soros is like the parent that says, the kid's going to go to school, and the parent says they want him to be a doctor, and he says, no, I want to be a musician. I got no interest in being a doctor, right? George Soros is like the parent saying to the kid, you will be a doctor. And too bad, that's the way I say it. And this doesn't work out. Sometimes you got to let people do what the hell they want. If they have a love for what they're doing, there's a better chance they're going to do better at it. And they're going to succeed, whatever the hell it is. So micromanagement and kind of like just telling the world how to be, and we want it this way and we want it that way because I think this. That's his whole fatal flaw in a nutshell. I mean, I know the conservatives list this big thing of all these organizations, but he's sticking his finger in everything. That's your problem, George, right there. But anyway, what you need to stick your finger in, though, is getting those Confederate monuments back up. And then I'm going to be a fan of George. Got to get some Robert E. Lee monuments up and all that other stuff. Right, George? I'll talk to you later, buddy. Over and out.